What up, everybody? In Ghost Season 2, Carrie Milgram decided to take the stand in place of Lauren Baldwin after being manipulated by Tariq. Knowing Tariq killed Jabari, Carrie was eager to take the stand to get justice for her former lover, Jabari Reynolds, while also clearing her and Zeke's name of any wrongdoing. However, it was on cross-examination that Carrie was burned by Davis McLean. It is here, while under oath, Carrie admits to hooking up with Jabari, Whitman, Zeke, and Davis himself, completely discrediting Carrie, all while forcing her to admit that she was hooking up with a Stansfield student and star basketball player Zeke Cross. As Carrie is having a glass of wine and contemplating her next move, she receives a text from the Stansfield dean to come in early the next morning, most likely to get fired. It is then when she gets a knock on her door from Monet. Monet shows up looking for Zeke, completely stressed out after Diana blew up her lifetime of lies at the dinner table. Monet turns and tells Carrie, as long as he has you to turn to, he'll never come back to me. The next thing we know, Zeke is walking into Carrie's place to find her dead, so it's assumed at this point that Monet killed Carrie. But the question a lot of us had at the same time is, how in the world did Monet pull this off? And I am completely convinced that Monet is in no way capable of pulling this off by herself. The only possible way to do it alone would have been to pull her gun out on Carrie and force her to do it herself. But there's no way that Carrie is so weak she wouldn't put up at least a little bit of a fight. If anything, to let people know that you were killed and it wasn't a suicide. Whitman's theory is that Kane helped Monet pull this off. The problem with this theory is that the timelines don't match up. At the time of Carrie's death, Kane was with Mecca taking out the remaining GTG gang members. So in my mind, there's two possible scenarios on how this played out. The first is that Davis is Monet's accomplice. Davis actually showed up at Carrie's after burning her on cross to try to smooth things over and get back in with Carrie while she was down, only to find that Monet killed Carrie. After this, Davis helps Monet stage Carrie's death as a suicide, and Monet pays Davis a big bankroll for his help and to keep silent about the whole situation. There's a line from episode 3 where Monet says to Davis, "I need to see what they have on my family. Me, Kane, you." So I'm assuming that this means Davis is Monet's accomplice in this crime, but it could actually mean something else. After hearing this, there is a chance that Monet and Davis could possibly be siblings, but I have a hard time with this one because either though I believe Davis changed his name after going legit, his brother's name is Theo Rollins, and Monet's maiden name was Nene Stewart. But they could have different moms or dads, which would explain why they have different last names. There could also be a small possibility that Davis is Kane's real dad, or that Monet and Davis are having an affair. In season 2, when Zeke was at the precinct being questioned by Whitman, Monet and Davis showed up at the same time and pretended like they never met before. Could there be a secret history in some type of way between the two? Getting me to my second Carrie Milgram death scenario, being that Detective Whitman killed Carrie in some kind of jealous rage and is trying to frame Monet. When meeting up with Whitman, Monet said he probably killed Carrie and that's why he's so hot on her. So maybe after his name was mentioned in the trial for having relations with Carrie, he went to Carrie's place after Monet left and they got into an argument and he killed her. Now Whitman would more likely have the strength to pull this off than Monet would have. Whitman gives me some real Greg Knox vibes. And one thing I was always trying to figure out about Greg Knox to this day is, was Greg Knox getting coked up? Because he was always sweating, fidgety, and sniffing his nose. To me, they were trying to indicate he was coked up without actually saying it. This is something I'm also wondering about Whitman, but to a lesser degree. What we do know is that Whitman is hot-headed and a loose cannon, so I definitely wouldn't put this past him. He could have also saw Monet coming out of Carrie's place before killing her, but this is definitely one of the most interesting storylines on the show right now. On top of that, Whitman for sure knows Monet killed the contractor, DC Joe, Rico, and Mecca. By Whitman knowing all this info, definitely got me looking at Diana, that she is most likely a CI giving Whitman this info. And just like Whitman is hot to take down Monet, he also notices that Jenny and Blanca are both misguided in their zeal to take down Tariq. And we know they both have personal agenda here, Blanca never being able to catch Ghost, and also knowing about Tariq all the way back to Ray Ray. As for Jenny Sullivan, she was humiliated in court while prosecuting Tariq for the murder of Jabari and Detective Ramirez, so she too has a personal agenda in trying to vindicate herself from that L she took. Before I go, in their meeting, Monet also mentioned that Whitman needs to be looking for the GTG member who killed Zeke. This is now going to get Whitman to look into the GTG and could trace another murder back to Monet. Whitman also mentioned that he assumed Zeke's death was a case of mistaken identity and the shooter thought he was shooting Mecca. But Monet is so caught up right now, this didn't even register with her. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts in the comments.